Hello and welcome to Booking Through Life. It's Mary. I hope you're having a wonderful Jane Austen July. We are almost at the end of the month. It's gone by so quickly, and I needed to squeeze this video in because I've talked about it. I haven't gotten to re-watch all of my Pride and Prejudice adaptations, so I just kind of did a little refresher. And and then I did a ranking, and it was really difficult because I really love every single one of them. The top two and probably the bottom three were a little bit easier, and then it gets a little bit muddy. So I've also given them a little title. If you want your Pride and Prejudice like blank, watch this. That way they all kind of fill a need, I guess. Anyway, before I go any further, I just wanted to say I'm not a movie critic. I am not a Jane Austen scholar. I am also not a stickler that the movie stays true to the book content. I'm someone who enjoys a good movie, and I consider these adaptations, and I love to see people's creativity and how they decide they want to adapt and what they do with dialogue. Do they omit it? Do they give a different person some lines? That's happened. Sometimes the story has changed a little bit. There's an ending in one that's not a part of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice at all. Some of them are very loosely adapted, and some of them are more true to the book. So here we go. So number 13. Number 13 is representing all of the Hallmarky type movies, and I didn't watch this one. This year I actually watched Becoming Ms. Bennet, Pride and Prejudice. I watched it on Amazon Prime, and it's like those for me. They're okay, but they're kind of goofy in some ways. I thought the character, I think her name was Lexi Giovanoli. Don't know if I'm saying that right. She played the Lizzie, and David Witts played the Darcy. I thought the Lizzie was a little vanilla. And I thought the Darcy was a little bit better. And it's a story about this woman. She's kind of an social media influencer, and she has, they don't call it YouTube, but she's got some type of channel, and she's got a huge following, and she's American, and she gets she's hired to play Elizabeth in a film adaptation, and all of the other actors are Brits, and they don't think she really belongs there, and so that's where the Darcy character is a little arrogant in that way, that he doesn't think she's getting the accent down, and things go from there. So I have Pride and Prejudice and Mistletoe, which I did not, but this is representing all of the Pride and Prejudice Hallmarkies. So if you feel like a Pride and Prejudice that kind of has a Hallmark feel, then maybe these are the movies for you. But I'm putting them down at the bottom. And then one of the things that I forgot to say is I have 13, but obviously, like I know of at least 6 kind of Hallmarky movies right off the top of my head. And I don't even know, there's probably an endless supply of those. As far as adaptations that I'm aware of, I know the BBC did a 1938, a 1952, a 1958, and a 1967. I know there's an Italian one, and I think there's a Dutch one, and they're in black and white as well. You can get little tidbits of those movies. Some of these might have been radio broadcasts for the BBC, but there is and I won't have the link or anything. You'll just have to do your own digging if you're interested. But there's some videos that compare. It will take the scenes, like the proposal scene, the first proposal from Mr. Darcy, and it will compare like maybe 5 or 6 different movies, and it will have some of those 1950s and 60s versions in black and white. There's also, I'm not sure which one it is, it might be the 38 version. I think you can get at least part 1. You can watch that on YouTube as well. I need to do a little bit more exploring. I'll do that maybe this next year and have maybe some answers for next Jane Austen July. So having said that, there's also a Pride and Prejudice Atlanta, which you can see it. It's kind of, you can pull it up on Amazon, but it says it's not available here. So I don't know how to get a hold of that one. I'll have to try to look into that too. So anyway, on the bottom of my list are those Hallmarks. But if you're interested in a Pride and Prejudice and Hallmark, there's a lot available for you. So coming in at number 12 is the 1985 BBC TV series Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. And this, I guess when it came out in, oh, I think it's 1980. I said 80. No, this one says 85. I don't know. It might have been 1980. When this one came out, it was, I guess it was revolutionary because it was really the first one that really had Jane Austen's, most of her words. It's not 100% true to the book, but it's got 6 episodes, and so it was, yeah, for people of that, you know, that time, which is my time. But I wasn't in Britain. I don't know when it was released in the United States, but I do remember seeing it as a young girl, and I do remember liking it. Now, having watched it, I thought the Elizabeth, who is Elizabeth Garvey, I thought she did a really good job, and I think she was, this was like maybe one of her first acting jobs. David Rintoul, who played Darcy, I've said this before, he was like a wax figure. He was just like really stiff, and he, like, his chin, like, I think I felt like he maybe overacted it, or somebody directed him to act it in a way that just wasn't natural at all. I think you can have that arrogance and that stiffness or shyness and not be totally stiff yourself. And so, yeah, he was a little distracting. He had the voice. His voice was really, really great, and he kind of had the look. His look was okay. But yeah, but one of the fun surprises of this is that, I hope I say her name right, Judy Parfitt. She was Lady Catherine de Bourgh, and she plays Sister Monica Joan on Call the Midwife. And so that was really a fun surprise. And of course, Lydia is good in this one. I think Lydia is always good. I haven't watched one where I haven't thought that the actress who played Lydia was really, really captured it. And I think the Mr. Collinses and probably the Wickhams are all pretty good too. I think the Wickham here might have, his look, I think maybe he had like some big chops. I don't know. Anyway, I can't remember. But that's kind of the bottom. But I still like that one. I still like to watch it every once in a while. It's just a big commitment. That's why it's sort of on the bottom. But there's really 2 versions, that and the Colin Firth version, that are really the most true to the book. So those are the 2. If you really want an adaptation that's true to the book, and you don't mind a really stiff Darcy, this one's for you. All right, if you're looking for a Pride and Prejudice that kind of has some Gone with the Wind feels, then definitely go with my number 11 pick, and that's Pride and Prejudice from 1940, which is often considered the first Pride and Prejudice, but as I told you, there's one in 38, so not quite the first one. But this has a color photo on it, but mine is actually black and white. what had happened was Gone with the Wind used up all the Technicolor film, which was just a new thing at the time, and so they had to film Pride and Prejudice in black and white. It has been colorized, but my version is not. And then I accidentally bought the Korean version, which I also did with Little Women. It just has Korean subtitles that you can add if you want, but you can just watch it in the regular version. You don't actually have to buy a new copy, which is what I did with the Little Women. I bought the Korean version, and then I was like, I bought the Korean version, and then I bought the other version. But anyway, so again, if you want one that's kind of a Gone with the Wind, and why is that? There's a myth or a rumor that they used some of the costumes from Gone with the Wind for this movie, and it does. The costumes are big puff sleeves, big bell, like Cinderella type dresses. Think Gone with the Wind. Huge hats. The hats were just outrageous. The soundtrack is silly, and Greer Garson makes, I mean, she did a good job acting, but she was 32 when she played this part, and she does look like she's too old to be Elizabeth Bennet. Maureen O'Sullivan plays Jane, and again, I can't remember who played the Lydia, but she did a really good job. And Laurence Olivier, he makes a really nice Mr. Darcy. I think the acting kind of fits that time, so for us, the acting might be a little overacted, but it's still enjoyable. There's a lot of things that are not in the book. Let's see. Oh, one of the things, what was something that, Mrs. Bennet goes around and says, "Looks-a-daisy, looks-a-daisy," which is kind of silly. And then Lady Catherine de Bourgh actually thinks that they make a good match, and there's an alternative ending for Mary as well. So there you go. But it was fun. It's still, again, fun to watch. Okay, the next one, number 10, I don't have a copy of this. I own it on streaming on Amazon, and it's called Pride and Prejudice, a new musical. So if you want Pride and Prejudice as a musical, you kind of have two options. You have this, Pride and Prejudice, a new musical, which is actually a musical. It's on stage, it's filmed, and it's a stage production. It's actually quite good. I really enjoyed it. I love musicals. Oh, I interrupted myself. There's also Bride and Prejudice, which is a bit of a musical too, and we'll come to that one later. But I actually liked the musical. As I said, I love musicals. We have season tickets to Broadway in Tucson every year, and so I would love to see this one live. It has some really funny parts. It's the shell of the story is the book. But some of the songs that they sing, they're kind of singing about their personalities and about what they're thinking, and so you don't necessarily get that in the book. But again, it was very well done, and I liked the Lizzie. I didn't put down who was starring in it, so I'm sorry about that. But anyway, check that one out if you love musicals. All right, the next one, if you are in the mood for Pride and Prejudice light that will make you laugh, that's a little bit on the spicy side, I think they're both rated R, then perhaps Bridget Jones' Diary, I have two of them, and Bridget Jones' The Edge of Reason, perhaps they're the Pride and Prejudice for you. So this stars Renee Zellweger, and her name is Bridget Jones. It's her diary. And she's kind of she's 32, and she's feeling like she needs to make some changes. So she starts writing this diary. She's trying to quit smoking, quit drinking, lose weight, jumpstart her love life. And she's kind of daydreams about Hugh Grant. He plays Daniel Cleaver. He's kind of the Wickham character. He's the not nice guy. They start dating a bit, and yeah, he ends up not being the best person to date. But she also knows Mark Darcy, who is a Darcy character, and he was a childhood friend, but they didn't always get along. He's kind of insulting, and things go from there. Anyway, very funny, quite enjoyable, but it's a little bit racy. Maybe not a little bit, maybe a little bit more. Oh, and then I'll just say, the opening is kind of funny. It's Sound of Music opening. So that's kind of fun too. All right, the next one on our list is number 8. And if you want a Pride and Prejudice that is really quirky and really zany and has a little bit of a Latter-day Saints feel, then this might be the Pride and Prejudice for you. It's Pride and Prejudice, a latter-day comedy. It stars Cam Heskin as Elizabeth, and Orlando Seal as Mr. Darcy. And then this one kind of takes a little, goes a little bit different. Elizabeth I think she's a grad student. She's also written a book. She's trying to get published. And she lives with her friend Jane, who is from Argentina. And then Lydia and Kitty are sisters, and they're the landlords. Their dad bought them this flat or this apartment or something, apartment building, I'm not quite sure. And so they're the landlords. And then they also have a friend, Mary. And Charlotte shows up, but just briefly. Bingley is kind of this doofus type guy. He's trying to, he made like a CD for dogs, to help train dogs, and they listen to Mozart or Bach. Anyway, so he's kind of dorky, but it's hilarious, and it's just outside of the box. There's a Wickham character. He's Jack Wickham. He's very inappropriate. And the Collins character he's very much a Latter-day Saints church goer, and he's looking for this stereotypical woman that would meet all the criteria. And anyway, he's funny too. Anyway, just like I said, just some zany things happen. So then, moving on to number 7. If you want a Pride and Prejudice Bollywood style that has lots of singing and dancing and is very visually pleasing with all of the colorfulness of the production, Bride and Prejudice would be the movie for you. I really love this movie. This is another one that's got some zany parts to it. So I'm probably not going to say her name right. Aishwarya Rai, she's now married. Bachchan. She was the the most well-known and most beautiful Bollywood actress at the time. They paired her up with Martin Henderson. He's of Virgin River fame. He's the Mr. Darcy, and he's from America. And then Naveen Andrews is the Bingley. I think he was in Lost. And I thought he should have been the Darcy. He was not quite the shy doofus guy. He came across more charismatic and more confident. I almost wish they would have switched the characters, and Naveen would have been showing Martin Henderson as Bingley around India and teaching him, showing him the ropes. But that didn't happen. Some other surprises is, I'm not going to say her name right, Alex Bledel. She was in the Gilmore Girls. She's Georgiana. And then Marcia Mason, if you're older like me, she was in the Goodbye Girls. She was married to playwright and screenwriter Neil Simon. She's Lady Catherine de Bourgh. And so it's beautiful, it's fun, there's some really funny scenes. There's a funny scene where, I can't remember if it's the Mary or the Lydia character does like this cobra dance, and it's absolutely hilarious. Anyway, very good, love that movie. Then the next one, coming in at number 6, is if you want your Pride and Prejudice and you want it with some zombies, then Pride and Prejudice and Zombies would be the movie for you. So this one stars Lily James as Elizabeth, and what's this other guy's name? Sam Riley as Mr. Darcy. And his voice and my voice are very similar. He has a raspy voice too. And this movie is fun. It's zany too. Matt Smith of Doctor Who fame plays Mr. Collins, and oh my gosh, just watch that for him alone, because he is so hilarious as Mr. Collins. And I think Lily James makes a very fine Elizabeth. So anyway, this one is just, it's really good. But again, those are kind of the super duper zany ones. Then, coming in at number 5. Now, this one here is if you want your Pride and Prejudice, and this is Pride and Prejudice Light, and you want it to be a time-traveling one, then this would be the movie for you, and that's Lost in Austen. I also think if you want a Pride and Prejudice where it really shows like the girl who's really obsessed, the girl in our times who is really obsessed with Pride and Prejudice, you have these two movies. This would be a good pick for that one too. And so this one stars Jemima Roper, and she plays Amanda Price, and she's from the present day. And there is this, in this back closet, there's this door, and somehow Elizabeth, not Jane Austen, but Elizabeth Bennet, is able to come out of her storyline and is coming into present day. And Amanda ends up going into Elizabeth's day, because if I remember correctly, I watched this last year. I didn't have a chance to watch this year. I think she's worried about what's going to happen to the storyline, and she wants the storyline to remain the same. But the more she's there, the more things kind of get jumbled up. And yeah, so she's trying to put people where they belong in the story, and they're not really following along with what she thinks. There's some really funny nods to the Colin Firth Pride and Prejudice. Yeah, this is just a delight. Watch this one. It's so good. The next one that I chose is number 4, and this one is if you want to know what it would be like to have a Pride and Prejudice immersion experience, then Austenland might be the Pride and Prejudice for you. This one is Pride and Prejudice Light, but it is so, the love story is so fun in this one, and it gets that, although it's not like the true storyline, it gets that dynamic with the Wickham character and the Darcy type character. It gets that down really, really in a sweet way that makes sure, that gives you all the Pride and Prejudice feels. But then it has the quirkiness of course. So Carrie Russell plays our heroine, and her name is Jane Hayes, and she saves up all of her money to go to this Pride and Prejudice estate, immersion estate, but she can't afford a whole lot, so she gets a less than package. And then there's Jennifer Coolidge, and I can't remember, she's Elizabeth something. I can't remember what her name is, but she is just so funny. I mean, if you've seen anything with Jennifer Coolidge in it, you know how hilarious she is, and she does not disappoint. And then we have J.J. Field, who played, he was in Northanger Abbey, and he played, what's his face? Edward, I can't think of his name right now. Anyway, he's just perfect. And so, yeah, so she ends up going to this immersion Pride and Prejudice place, and Jane Seymour is the owner and the person who runs it, and she's got to follow all these strict rules. Jennifer Coolidge befriends her. She ends up with, her storyline ends up with kind of the Wickham guy, and yeah, things kind of go from there. And yeah, anyway, super sweet. And like I said, these last three could really be anywhere in the mix. The next one, number 3, is if you want Pride and Prejudice continuation with a little bit of murder, then Death Comes to Pemberley will be the Pride and Prejudice for you. I have to say, I think I've said this before, but I did not care for the book. This is adapted from the book, and this is excellent. I highly recommend watching this over the book. It stars Matthew Rhys as Mr. Darcy. Not my favorite Mr. Darcy, but he's still a good one. I love Anna Maxwell Martin. She plays Elizabeth. Oh my goodness. Jenna Coleman as Lydia might be my favorite, or one of my favorite Lydias. I also liked, I liked the Lydia and the Colin Firth one too. She was really good too. I can't remember the actress's name. But so, I do believe it's Mr. Denny who ends up dying. Lydia comes to Pemberley uninvited, and they can't refuse her. On her way there, Denny dies, and so it's who killed Denny. And there's some other mysterious things kind of going on. And Darcy and Elizabeth are kind of like, ooh, you know, she brought some disgrace to his family. They're kind of having a little bit of angst there. Very good. I think it's 4 parts. Can't remember. Anyway, now we're at our top 2. And I know everybody has their opinion. And did I say this earlier, that when I was talking about that 1980s, 85 version of the BBC TV series, that I read a little article, and the woman said she thinks the first Pride and Prejudice you saw is probably your favorite? Well, maybe that's true. So, if you want a beautifully done Pride and Prejudice that is absolutely true, well, I shouldn't say absolutely, but very true to the book, then the Pride and Prejudice BBC series with Colin Firth and Jennifer Ely will be the one for you. I must say the opening scene is gorgeous in this. The acting is really good. The cast is fabulous. I always thought that Jane wasn't as pretty as she should have been, but I've heard that she was considered one of the most beautiful actresses in Britain at that time. It's got Colin Firth in it, which you can't go wrong with Colin Firth. Yeah, it's really good. It's just it's a commitment too, because it's what, 6 or 8 episodes, so it's a time commitment. But very beautifully done, very well done. Just number 2 in my book. I know that's going to be a scandal for some of you, but my absolute favorite, and maybe it's because I was dating my husband at the time, so when this came out, but the Pride and Prejudice with Keira Knightley and Matthew Macfadyen is my absolute favorite adaptation. For me, it's a near perfect movie. There's only a couple of things that I would change. My husband and I always make fun of when he tells her at the end he loves her, and she says, "Your hands are cold." That's a little goofy. But there's just so much to love about this film. The soundtrack is absolutely gorgeous. it's the cinematography is beautiful. The acting is very good. The cast is just stellar. It's not a huge time commitment. You can watch it in one evening. Judi Dench plays Lady Catherine. I mean, it's just, that proposal scene just gets me all the time. Just, it's so passionate and so fiery. And when Elizabeth turns him down, Matthew Macfadyen does this. He tilts his head and he looks so hurt. And then I know it's kind of, some people don't like it that they almost kiss. But, oh, it's just such good filmmaking. And they both look, you know, he looks hurt and she looks angry, and then they kind of have that moment, and it's just so good. And then the scene when they're, this is a prior scene, when they're in the ballroom, and the director, why can't I remember his name? He does the Joe, I can't remember. He does the fade out, so they're at the ball and everybody else fades out and it's just them dancing, and I thought that was so effective too. Oh, it's just so gorgeous. Yeah, it's just, for me, it's just a beautiful film. I've probably overwatched it. I watch this one all the time. There's a cute reference in the Barbie movie about a depressed Barbie and how she watches Pride and Prejudice for like the umpteenth time. So funny. I don't think that I watch it because I'm depressed. I usually watch it if my husband's out of town, or if he goes on a guy's retreat every once in a while. I usually put this one in, and it just, I just love it. It's just near perfect. There was one other scene I wanted to say. Oh, I know what it is. It's when Elizabeth goes to Pemberley and she comes across Darcy and Georgiana, and he's been like this, you know, this very closed emotionally. He's just very emotionally closed off, very serious, very somber. And then you see him smiling, and it's just like the lights turned on. It's just so beautiful. Anyway, love, 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 love this film. Sorry if it hurts your feelings and you love this one better. You know what? We can exist in a world where you think this is the best one and I think this is the best one. They're both really, really good. And we are so fortunate that we have so much content to pick and choose from, and we can have a different Pride and Prejudice mood, and we have multiple ways to fill that. One that I didn't talk about, and that was the Lizzie Bennet Diaries from YouTube. I probably would squeeze that in as number 3 and bump everything up or everything down, I guess it is, because that's a really good web series and very enjoyable. Anyway, that's all for today. Let me know what you agree with, what you disagree with, what you've watched, what maybe you want to watch now. Anyway, that's all for today. And again, I hope you're having a lovely Jane Austen July, and your last week or so of this month is just absolutely fabulous. I hope it ends on a great note. And I hope all your books are good books. Until next time, bye.